Have you ever noticed how solving a problem in your head that doesn't actually exist feels strangely productive? You lie awake at 2 a.m., cycling through arguments and outcomes, completely drained but entirely unable to stop. Your friends think you enjoy worrying. They tell you to just turn your brain off, like it's a switch you forgot to flip. But the truth is, your nervous system is actually rewarding you for this. You aren't overthinking because you're flawed. You're doing it because your brain chemically convinced you that worrying is the exact same thing as staying safe. You sit there staring at the ceiling. Your body is perfectly still, but your mind is running a full diagnostic report on an interaction from 3 days ago. Did they sound slightly annoyed when they said goodbye? Should you have texted them back faster? You replay the memory. You edit it. You draft a new response in your head. And for a brief, strange second, you feel a tiny rush of relief. You feel like you solved something. Cognitive psychologists call this the illusion of mental progress. Your brain actually releases small amounts of dopamine when you engage in problem solving. But here is the catch. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between solving a real problem in the physical world and solving an imaginary problem in your head. It just rewards the effort. So you keep spinning. You keep auditing conversations that haven't happened yet because your brain is getting a chemical high from the preparation. You are quite literally participating in your own exhaustion. People tell you to just be present. They say mindfulness is the answer. Just focus on your breath. But when you try to sit quietly, the noise gets louder. That isn't a failure of willpower. It's a biological reality. There is a background processing system in your brain called the default mode network. In most people, it hums quietly in the background. In you, it is essentially a supercomputer that never receives an off signal. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that analyzes and plans, stays completely lit up even when you are supposed to be resting. Studies out of Yale and the University of Michigan looked closely at this. They found that people who fall into these deep, repetitive thought loops aren't doing it out of weakness. They do it because their brains are highly evolved for pattern recognition. You are constantly scanning your environment. You are looking for a shift in tone, a slight change in facial expression, a text message that is one word shorter than usual. Your brain gathers all this data and immediately tries to build a predictive model. If you can predict the disaster, you can prevent it. It is a brilliant survival mechanism, but it is incredibly lonely. Because where did you learn to do that? You didn't wake up one day and decide to become an emotional auditor. For a lot of people, this habit started a long time ago. It usually begins in an environment where things were unpredictable. Maybe you grew up around someone whose moods shifted violently without warning. One minute, everything was fine, and the next, the energy in the room was terrifying. Or maybe you were penalized heavily for making simple mistakes. Your young nervous system learned a very logical lesson. Surprise is dangerous. Anticipation is safety. You became hyper-vigilant. You learned to read the room before you even fully stepped into it. You became an expert at managing other people's emotional states so you wouldn't get caught in the blast radius. Your hidden currency became control. Not controlling other people, but controlling your own exposure to pain. If you think through every possible catastrophic scenario before it happens, you rob the world of its ability to surprise you. You pre-feel the pain. There is a massive difference between processing and brooding. Psychologists split this behavior into two distinct camps. Reflective rumination is when you turn inward to actually process an emotion. You think about why a comment hurt you. You figure out your boundary. You grow from it. But brooding rumination is different. Brooding is passive. It is sitting in the passenger seat of your own mind while it drives you through the worst-case scenario over and over again without ever looking for an exit. You know you are brooding when you are entirely drained, but you haven't actually made a single decision. You oscillate between these two states constantly. One minute you are doing deep, valuable self-reflection, and the next minute you are paralyzed, staring at a blank wall, terrified of making the wrong choice. Society doesn't help. They tell you to trust your gut. But what does your gut even sound like when there are 50 different voices in your head shouting different warnings? This is where the contradiction lives. The exact same engine that makes you so exhausted is the exact same engine that makes you profoundly empathetic. A study published in the journal Psychological Science in 2013 found a direct link between high levels of rumination and high cognitive empathy. You understand exactly how words land. You can sense the unspoken tension at a dinner table while everyone else is happily eating. You notice when someone goes quiet. You feel the weight of what people are not saying. You are remarkably perceptive. But perception without resolution is a trap. You absorb all this emotional data from the people around you, and because your brain is wired to problem solve, you try to fix it. You twist yourself into knots trying to accommodate everyone, trying to say the perfect thing, trying to ensure no one is disappointed. You carry the emotional weight of a room that isn't even asking you to carry it. And eventually, you break, you isolate, you cancel plans, you stop texting back. You disappear into your room not because you don't like people, but because the cognitive load of interacting with them is simply too high. You need to turn the scanner off. You aren't antisocial, you are just emotionally bankrupt. The hardest truth to accept is that the mind cannot think its way out of every problem. You can analyze a past conversation from 40 different angles. It will not change what was said. You can map out every possible outcome of a future event. The event will still do whatever it is going to do. Some things just have to be lived. They have to be felt. Therapists who work with this use a concept called cognitive diffusion. It sounds clinical, but it is actually deeply human. It is the practice of looking at your thoughts instead of looking from them. It is sitting on that couch at 2 a.m., noticing the spiral starting, and instead of diving into the math of the problem, you simply observe it. You say to yourself, "My brain is generating a concern right now." You don't fight it, you don't try to switch it off, you just create a tiny fraction of distance between you and the noise. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. Your brain has spent years acting as a shield for everyone around you, processing the invisible threats so nobody else had to. That isn't a personality defect. It is a profound act of care that just went entirely unchecked. But the environment that required you to be this hyper-vigilant isn't the environment you are in right now. You survived that. You are allowed to put the scanner down. The next time you find yourself staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning trying to solve a problem that hasn't happened yet, just remind yourself that it is okay to let the world surprise you. Sometimes things just work out. Which side of the line are you on? Do you overthink to protect yourself or to protect the people around you? If you've ever felt entirely exhausted by your own empathy and wanted to know why, subscribe to the channel. We make it simple.